going on in the places. So the whole thing, and then for me, they send Sarabu. Why they didn't send the triple jumper? Why they didn't send Prem Narayan? A man that they promoted from inspector to superintendent. Perhaps they're keeping him to go to the Olympics to do triple jump. He might win a gold medal for us. Why is Sarabu? I remember Sarabu's name was mentioned in the paper shots matter as the guy who was operating the computer. So look out, all kind of things are happening. But the bottom line is that I haven't seen or haven't heard of any common law issue, any case law, any judicial precedents with saying that a policeman from Guyana can go to United States or any other country and serve a summons, and then you call it proper service. But if they're thinking that if they get a right magistrate, the magistrate could rule that they say what happened in the States or was alleged happened in the States is proper service, and he can issue warrant for work, or he can try the case behind his back and convict him, and then they will get the way that he is a convicted criminal.
Well, well said, my brother. And as I said before, I anticipate some strong legal challenge to this whole thing. We're going to understand what the law says. But let me say this. With reading all the letters and so on, I say it is unbelievable to me that persons with legal training can write to justify and to say this act is legal. I could understand the Rabin Singhs and those people who don't have any legal training. But to see people who have legal training try to justify this, and as you rightly said, CC, I was a commander in Barbies. We had many cases where persons who are wanted in Guyana are arrested by the authorities in Suriname and vice versa. And we can go to Suriname even to take over that arrested person, and they can't come to Guyana. We had an arrangement where they would bring the arrested person to the border, and then we will then take over that person. And the same, it's a reciprocal arrangement. You can't go there. And therefore, I find it amazing that legal persons will make this argument. And for clarify what they have said, there's a letter by attorney Dr. Vivian Williams that I encourage you to read. It is entitled, it says, Beyond the Reach of Legal Process, Lessons from State versus Rafikian, I think is the pronunciation. But there's a case in the United States that Vivian Williams, attorney at law, Dr. Vivian Williams, wrote recently, and it is entitled, I've said, Beyond the Reach of Legal Process. Also, former magistrate Don Cush, she wrote a letter, I think it appeared in today's paper, yesterday's paper, and a part, she quote a part of the law, which says here that all summonses, warrants, orders, judgment, writs of execution, or other process or proceedings, whether civil or criminal, issued or taken by or by the authority of any magistrate respecting any matter within its jurisdiction, shall have full force and effect, and may be served or executed anywhere within Guyana by a bailiff of the court, by the police or other constable to whom they are directed, or by any other police or constable as the case might be. This is the law. This is the law. And again, I say, people who are supposed to be legal people, they're dealing with law, they're dealing with politics. And I have noted that the Attorney General, Mohabir Anil Nandlal, SC, MP, has been silent on this issue. I haven't read, I don't know if he wrote anything, but I haven't seen anything him commenting or trying to justify this matter. And let me say this to Officer Sarabu and all other policemen listening on this live. I anticipate that when the time comes, he's going to be thrown under the bus because he would have been given an order to go and to do what he did. But remember, you cannot be compelled to carry out an unlawful or illegal order. And you, as a police officer, must have known that, look, this order is unlawful, illegal. This is not something that say, go and do this and it's something spontaneous. You got to travel to the United States. So you got time to go through, you got ticket and all, you got time to think it over. So it's not a spontaneous act. You have time to think it over. And again, I say, you cannot be compelled to carry out an unlawful order. And I'm saying clearly, this order for you to travel to the United States to serve his summons was unlawful. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, go and read the Nuremberg trials. Because you know the Nuremberg trial, Nuremberg is a place in Germany, and Nuremberg trial is where the Nazi war criminals were tried for executing all of those Jews. So many million Jews they executed in various forms. And to a man, their defense was they were only carrying out orders. They were good soldiers and they were carrying out orders. And the court ruled, the Nuremberg Tribunal is there, that you cannot be compelled to carry out an unlawful order. And as a reasonable human being, you ought to know that an order to go and kill all them Jews is an unlawful order. And further, that if you carry out an unlawful order, you can't use the fact that some superior gave you that order as a defense. That is established law. That is established law. You got the Nuremberg Tribunal, and you have the one in Vietnam, I think it's My Lai. Read those things. And I had to point that out to Minister of Affairs Gadraj back in 2003 when he was ordering me to do something that I considered unlawful and illegal. I told him, you can't order me because it is unlawful. And I am not compelled, I cannot be compelled to carry out an unlawful order. So, and I suspect again, when the defecation, it's the oscillation. That's one of my lecturers at FBI Academy used to say that. And I did ask him if that is the same as when the shit hit the fan. He said, yes. When the defecation, it's the oscillation. Everybody just run. Remember McDonald, Floyd McDonald, who was there as commissioner? When they had the inquiry into Gadraj, and they came up that he was giving McDonald, Gadraj was ordering McDonald another unlawful order to give people gun. Even a man who was known to be executing people, he upgraded firearm and so on. When Gadraj was faced in the inquiry, Gadraj said that the Commissioner McDonald should have been guided by his conscience and the Constitution. So even if, that is what Gadraj was saying, that even if I told McDonald to do something and it is unlawful, McDonald ought to know the law and do the correct thing. McDonald ought to know the law, and that's exactly what they're going to say with this officer. I am sorry, and I told someone I was sorry for him, so I shouldn't sorry. I'm sorry because he found himself in a situation and he decided he can carry out an order, an unlawful order. As I've said before, he now finds himself in a position where he may be required, in order to prove service, to go into the witness box on the 24th of March and swear that he executed a service of a summons on Rickford Burke in the United States. And somebody raised a very good question, because you're saying, CC said that the magistrate might have signed blind and all of that. I do not know that the address in the summons is a U.S. address, because these people are so devious, they are so dishonest. For all you know, the address of Burke in the summons might be a Guyana address. So when the magistrate looked at it, the magistrate dealing with somebody who they claim is in Guyana, all of those things are things that you have to consider. All of those things are things that you have to consider. But as again, I say, this matter, I see, got a long way to go. It has a very long way to go in terms of jurisdiction to serve summons, in terms of the authority the police officer had to leave Guyana to say he's sovereign. I am sure that he violated the conditions of a visa. And I would not be surprised if the U.S. State Department takes up that, because you're talking about a dangerous precedent where you telling me, the lawyers writing to say that a police officer in Guyana can jump on a plane and go to Germany, go to England, go to even Barbados or Suriname, our neighbors, and say that they are serving a summons or executing a warrant or some other legal process. Madness. Madness. So let's see where this will go. You got to sit back, you got to watch the ride, and you got to pick sense out of nonsense. You got to pick sense out of nonsense. And any reasonable person will tell you, how can you argue that a policeman in Guyana can head to any country in the world and say he's serving someone? If there's a case, why wasn't this done before? And I want to make a point. I might have alluded to it before. This is not about getting brought to trial to convict. This is about pushing a particular narrative, as my colleague, Mr. Conway, said a while ago. It's about pushing a particular narrative. Push to say, oh, Bork, as a vice president, has been said, oh, he's a wanted man, he's a fugitive, he lives in a basement. You know, when I saw this thing, I had to smile. The vice president making nice to say this man lives in a basement. And a man who lives in a basement seems to have also an apartment in the head of the vice president, because he can't hold a press conference, he can't do anything without referencing Bork. Even with the Washington conference that was organized. So for a man who has no influence, the vice president, the second vice president, Baron Jagdeo, said that Bork is a one-man organization and all of that. And to see this man with this one-man organization is able to do all of this, amazing, amazing. And the statement by the vice president recently, that and let me read what he is alleged to have said. I don't like to misquote them. The vice president is alleged to have said they live abroad. He's quoted here in one of the dailies to say they live abroad. They have nothing good to say about country. They sow divisions, discord every single day by their comments. They use social media as a weapon against the government and also private citizens, and as a means of extorting people. And clearly, this can't be protected speech. This is criminality. And I say this is coming from, that's end of quote. This is coming from a man who entertained Chinese businessmen in the living room. And it's alleged that negotiations, you know, we had a man, I don't know if the old police here, you remember, we had a man at the TSU who was noted for what they call malapropism, you know, using the word incorrectly. I hope I pronounce that one right, because they're going to knock me about it. And he used to say, when you come to these illegal things, it's not negotiations, it's agrotiations. A man who entertained Chinese businessmen in his living room to agrotiate. And the allegation is not that he entertained, he did entertain them in the living room. The evidence is there. But the allegation coming out of that is that he agrotiated with the thing. He's on tape saying, Sue looks after this part of the business. I operate from the government end and so on. That is a man who calling people criminal. That is a man who calling decent people low life and all of that. So let's see. And you know, let me tell you something. Yes, Carl, social media is a powerful weapon, because the PPP in their communist and propaganda mode are accustomed to controlling the media. They're accustomed to that. State media, they control. But in the age of social media, they do not have the type of control that they would want. So like this program, for example, they do all sort of thing to get it off the airwaves. They come with the gremlins, they do all sort of thing. But we're going to talk the truth. We're going to come and we're going to tell the truth. And there are other similar programs. So no doubt, based on what the second vice president is saying, the fact that we highlight certain issues, they're going to see that we are attacking the government, and they're going to tell me about cybercrime. But bring it on. Bring it on. I am not worried. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid to tell the truth. I will come and I will tell the truth. Right? That Terrence. The man was a man named, used to call him Skull, the screaming skull. He's a man who used to use all them fancy words. 78, 19, I think, what was his number. He used to use them words. So the older police will remember the screaming skull. Let me bring in CC for wrap up. We had so many other things to talk about, but let me bring in CC and then we see how we'll go. CC, anything more on this salmon story?
Yeah, just to add what you said, you made a very instructive comment. Anil Nanlal, the Attorney General, who is regarded as a senior legal influencer for the police. A man who like talk, a man is using the news, a man who's going to front, a man who the CCJ had some stone words to talk about him. Because remember when they placed an embargo on the decision of a certain matter, and through his office it was released, and he blamed it on his IT manager. Very, very silent. No comment from Anil. None whatsoever. That is very, very instructive. And just get back to McDonald was commissioner. I remember I went into the Discipline Service Commission inquiry, and I remember they questioning Gajraj about all the legal actions that he gave to McDonald. McDonald comply with it, including upgrading Achilles from there from a 3.2 to a 9 mm his weapon. And McDonald said, Gajraj said, Commissioner McDonald should have been guided by the Constitution and his conscience. Full stop, and he stopped there. And McDonald was annoyed. Imagine this man throw me under the bus and all. And those are precedents that we got to learn from. And you mentioned about Nuremberg trial. If the and the My Lai massacre, if the order is illegal, you are not bound to comply with it. But we wait and see what will come out of this. Where Sarabu said, or according to the release, this is Sarabu served a summons to Bork. He read the document, and Bork said he understand. And we saw tape that they themselves released, and there's Sarabu is nowhere in the picture. We didn't hear perhaps the microphone. They must turn off. They must get Pegasus to turn off the microphone, because we hear the conversation between Bork and the U.S. citizen. And then we didn't see Sarabu nowhere in the picture. But let's see come court day what the magistrate will rule.